All Hail Biafra! This is Biafra Liberation Army Network coming to you again. Please like, share, and comment.
Gentlemen, I want to talk to us this morning about a powerful write-up I saw, and which I contacted the writer, and of course I told him I liked what he wrote, because of course his posturings, his submissions, his perceptions and perspectives were things that are very, very likely to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not a good news entirely, but we are praying that this kind of predictions don't come true. But when people make postulations such as this, it is only important that we bring them out to the fore. The gentleman made a write-up that have powerful implications and postulations. And I think we Biafrans should hear it. We should hear him. It's a long read. It's a long listing. But I think it is what the listening ears of every Biafra. Because, of course, it's talking about Nigeria versus Biafra. It's talking about the three things that will happen if Nnamdi Kanu dies in detention. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make it clear here that my prayer, my hope and aspirations, and of course, I will fast and pray, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu does not die in detention. But the way it is going, where Mana is held, is fluctuating, is going down desperately, and we see a very nonchalant attitude by the administrators of this country. We see a deliberate ploy by the, so-called emperors of this country to frustrate him, to dehumanize him, and to continue to subject him to all kinds of indignities and, unsavory, inhuman treatments. Ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman has written is a postulation, is not yet a reality, but is telling us the likely things that might happen should Mazen Nnamdi Kanu die in prison. I think you should give me your ears. This is a very wonderful listening. I listened to it. I had to call him and say, look, sir, I share some of your perspectives, and I want to commend you for a wonderful, wonderful submission. Let us hope they listen. Let us hope the government, the zoo listens to you. Let us hope that his advisors will advise him. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ready, let's go through this. Nigeria versus Biafra. Three things that will happen if Nnamdi Kanu dies in detention. Imagine the Southeast, cracked roads, homes shuttered on Mondays, whispers. A man in solitary detention whose every breath becomes a symbol. That man is Nnamdi Kanu, leader of IPOB, whose health, rights, and very life are under sharp debate. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to just take this again. I need it to sink in. Imagine the Southeast, cracked roads, homes shuttered on Mondays, whispers. A man in solitary detention whose every breath becomes a symbol. That man is Nnamdi Kanu, leader of IPOB, whose health, rights, and very life are under sharp debate. The Nigerian state's handling of his detention has drawn fiery warnings from IPOB, from his family, from civil society. What if he dies in detention? What if that warning becomes reality? What would happen then? This article explores three seismic consequences: political, social, and security that could follow. It is not speculation. It's a warning rooted in history, law, identity, and the very fragile fabric of Nigeria's unity. 1. The political earthquake. Loss of legitimacy and rise of martyrdom. A. Martyrdom as catalyst. If Kanu dies in custody, he becomes more than a leader, he becomes a martyr. In conflict theory, martyrs often catalyze movements, transforming marginal support into mass mobilization. IPOB will harness grief, anger, and courage political forceful action, in bracket, protests, international advocacy, possible civil disobedience, bracket, will surge. The martyr aura is potent. It undercuts government narrative, frames Kanu as a victim of injustice, elevates IPOP scores globally. B. Government's legitimacy under question. The Nigerian government may be seen as responsible either for negligence or intentional mistreatment. International norms around prisoners' rights, human rights treaties, and medical torture would become focal points. This would strain relationships with the UK, in bracket, giving Kanu's dual citizenship, bracket, with international human rights organizations and possibly with regional bodies, in bracket, ECOWAS, African Union. Accusations of unlawful rendition. Remember, he was allegedly extradited from Kenya, and solitary confinement, abuse give the opposition strong leverage. C. Political polarization and identity politics deepened. Beyond party lines, death would polarize by ethnicity and region. Igbo identity tied more closely to the Biafra cause. Those who saw Biafra as historical collapse may see this as the final betrayal. Igbo politicians will be under pressure either to lead the outrage or be seen as collaborators. The national conversation would sharpen along, quote, those who protect the center versus those the center oppresses. The unity versus self-determination, unquote. The unity versus self-determination debate will shift from academic to existential. 2. Social upheavals, reawakened wounds, mass mobilization, and civil disobedience. A. Eruption of public anger and grief. In towns, villages, marketplaces across the Southeast, people will mourn and protest. Funerals may become rallies. Churches and traditional institutions may issue statements or organize vigils. This collective grief will fuel anger, hitherto simmered. Social media, being global, will amplify images, real or exaggerated, and narratives of injustice. B. Revived sit-at-homes, strikes and economic disruptions. IPOB has used sit-at-homes before as a non-violent tool of protest. If Kanu dies, that tactic could return, perhaps with more intensity. Monday sit-at-homes, shutdowns of commerce, transportation, public services. The economic losses will mount in the Southeast, but ripple across Nigeria. In quote, because supply chains, trade, internal migrations are interconnected, unquote. Businesses may flee, public confidence decline. C. Intercommunal tensions and vigilantism. Intercommunal tensions and vigilantism. Anger can turn inward and outward. Some Igbo individuals may target government properties. Some may clash with security forces. Others may take revenge against persons seen as collaborators, politicians, civil servants, or media figures who publicly supported the government's tough line. In parallel, there's a risk of reprisals by those who see IPOB or its supporters as disturbing national security. Quote unquote, vigilante justice escalates risk. 3. Security implosion. From local protest to widespread unrest, and in bracket, possible violence. A. Escalation with security forces. Protests eventually meet force with a death in detention. The state the state will likely ramp up security presence, curfews, roadblocks, arrests, crackdowns. Crackdowns risk civilian casualties. Once blood flows, it's hard to reverse. The dynamic moves from protest and suppression and radicalization. B. Radicalization and the spread of armed groups. Disillusionment with peaceful methods may push some to violence. Already, IPOB has factions. Some might break away or intensify militant activities. Cross-border sanctuaries, external funding, diaspora support, all possible channels for arming. Nigeria has a history where state overreach breeds. Nigeria has a history where state overreach breeds non-state violence. See Niger Delta militancy, Boko Haram, etc. Biafra agitation risk may move from rhetoric to paramilitary action. C. Threat to national stability. If unrest spreads beyond the southeast to parts of the Middle Belt, youth movements, or even international diaspora that threatens Nigeria's internal cohesion, investors will pull back. Inter-ethnic distrust deepens. For the federal government, this becomes not just a regional problem, but a national crisis. Economic disruption, international condemnation, possibly threats to territorial integrity. Not if, but when. Not if, but when. Kanu's health and detention have repeatedly been described as urgent. IPOB, his family, civil society are sounding the alarm. The question isn't merely what if, but when, and how the government handles this moment could decide whether Nigeria holds together or fractures further. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the postulations and submissions of this very intelligent observer. This is a human rights activist. This is a man who is in the know about conflict and conflict resolution. And he has brought up a very powerful treatise. This document is a treatise where he has tried to showcase the three positive things that can possibly happen if and when Nnamdi Kanu dies in detention. Of course, he agrees with me that we hope and we pray that this will never be, the ultimate situation, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. And we are hoping that the government of the zoo would rally around fast and take a quick decision, granting him, unconditional pardon. Because, of course, we all agree and we know he has done no wrong. He has been variously discharged and acquitted from different court processes. The government has continued to hold him, relying on a very ambiguous, false, and unrelated judicial notices and speculations. Yes, we hope the word is enough for the wise. We have seen, ladies and gentlemen, that yes, the man has fully documented possibly things that could happen should our maximum leader, Mazen Nnamdi, die in detention. He has warned that the Nigerian state's handling of his detention, yes, may, if not well articulated, and if justice, fairness, and equity is not fully abide with, at the end of the day, the escalations and the possibility of fracturing, and indeed creating the enablement for the division of this country, sectionalizing this country, and completely making Nigeria, indeed, what was described as our former prolific writer, late Professor Chinua Achebe, as there was a country. Yes, he has said it. Yes, what if Nnamdi Kanu dies in detention. What if that warning becomes reality? What would happen then? And he said, it is not speculation, it's warning rooted in history, law, identity, and the very fragile fabric of Nigeria's unity. He has said it. The gentleman said, what I'm doing is not just speculation. No, it's not speculation. It's a warning rooted in the history of this country, in law, in identity, and the very fragile fabric of Nigeria's unity. He talks of political earthquake, the loss of legitimacy and rise of martyrdom should Nnamdi Kanu die in detention. And they said it clearly here that if Kanu dies in custody, he becomes more than a leader, he becomes a martyr. And of course, he has said in conflict theory, martyrs often catalyze movements, transforming marginal support into mass mobilizations. He has warned the government that the IPOB will harness grief, anger, and outrage, political forceful action, protests, international advocacy, possible civil disobedience will surge everywhere. The matter aura is potent. It undercuts government narrative, frames Kanu as a victim of injustice, elevates IPOB's cause globally. And of course, he said the Nigerian government may be seen, if this thing happens to the life of Kanu, the Nigerian government may be seen as irresponsible government that failed to take responsibility. Yes, and of course, they'll be accused as being responsible for either negligence or intentional mistreatment. International norms around prisoners' rights, human rights, treaties, and medical torture would become focal points. This will strain relationships with the UK, given Kanu's dual citizenship, with international human rights organizations, and possibly with regional bodies, the ECOWAS, the African Union. Accusations of unlawful rendition. He was allegedly extradited from Kenya, and solitary confinement abuse give the opposition strong leverage. And of course, he warned again that beyond party lines, death would polarize by ethnicity and region. Igbo identity tied more closely to the Biafran cause. Those who saw Biafra as historical collapse may see this as the final betrayal. Igbo politicians will be under pressure, either to lead the outrage or be seen as collaborators. The national conversation would sharpen along those who protect the center versus those who center oppresses. The unity versus self-determination. Debate would shift from academic to existential. In towns, villages, marketplaces across the Southeast, people will mourn and protest. Funerals may become rallies. Churches and traditional institutions may issue statements or organize vigils. The collective grief will fuel anger that hitherto simmered. Social media, being global, will amplify images, real or exaggerated, and narratives of injustice.